What's up, everybody? Welcome to Scofie Sessions. And if this is your first time rolling in and you're watching this on YouTube or on LinkedIn, if you're live with us today or watching the recording back later, let me just let you know what you've stumbled upon. Scofie Sessions is my shameless excuse to hang out with friends of mine, peers in the industry, folks who I've just mad respect for and I'm curious to learn more about. And I am your host, Jonathan Schofield. My friends call me Scofie. And today's special guest is no exception. And our topic today is of particular relevance to so many people that I know have had this experience or can anticipate having this experience. And so today's title, 2 weeks notice, that dreaded email that we've all gotten from that employee and how to avoid it. Now, there's a lot more behind that. And we're going to run down some rabbit trails today, get on some soapboxes, and have some fun. But without further ado, I want to introduce our special guest today, Phil Sipowicz, founder and CEO of Teamworker. Phil, so great to have you today. How are you doing, brother?
I am doing awesome, man. Thanks for having me. Excited to join you here, have a little fun, and touch upon some issues that I think are important to so many of us in the sort of MSP and even broader tech marketplace communities. So
absolutely. No. We're going to have a lot of fun today and on a rare Friday for these streams. So if you are watching and joining with us live on LinkedIn or YouTube, do us a favor, stroke our egos and make us feel good. Say hi in the chat, wave, let us know where you're watching from or, what you're having for lunch. If you're having lunch right now, I know it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, but we are glad that you're here. Phil, share for our viewers a little bit about who you are, where you come from, what gets you up in the morning.
Yeah. Aside from my little puppy dog look at my face and get me out of bed in the morning. Yeah. Well, I have spent, I built and ran and ultimately exited via a sale at MSP. And so I've been involved in the managed service industry for, I'm going to date myself here, but about 30 years. So long ago that they didn't even call it managed services. It wasn't really a term for it. So I'm one of those dinosaur guys that keeps roaming around the planet and wondering why it's not extinct. But I think they stay alive in many ways by one, staying in touch with folks like you, trying to understand what's going on in this industry. And frankly, it's been such a great industry to me personally. What I try to do is connect with people and help them in any way I can, kind of pay it forward in some sense of that word or that term. And also, honestly, look for business opportunities inside. I think it's just such a great industry to be involved with. Not that it's not tough, but I don't think it's any tougher than the other industries that I've been involved with. I built and managed and sold a managed services business. And then after that, went into some investment work, worked alongside some founders and some managed service companies, continue to do some advisory work in that kind of space. And then today, my passion really is in with Teamworker, which is, we're going to dive into that a little bit later, but that's really a business focused on helping managed services companies address what I think is, one of the most pressing needs out there. It's just really your workforce orchestration, I call it. And there's so many factors influencing that today, and we're gonna jump into those, I'm sure. So that's me, and why I get out of bed every day.
What's your puppy's name?
Oh, Sydney, the Australian Labradoodle, hence the connection, Sydney there. Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. I love it. Well, Sydney's probably not watching, but if she ever does, we love you, Sid.
Hard from the Scofie sessions here. She'd be annoying us throughout the big distraction. Never get through everything. So, yeah.
Well, this is a great segue because 30 years ago, you sold your MSP and you find yourself, you can't get away from the MSP industry, the IT services space, and with your new venture, Teamworker, highly relevant to a lot of the stuff we're going to discuss today. How many employees at your peak with the MSP that you sold were on your team?
Yeah. So we were about 125 people at the end. We had 3 offices, Boston, San Francisco Bay Area, and then Texas office as well. But as I said, I started that about 30 years ago and ended up selling that just a few years ago, just about 7 or 8 years ago now. And there was such an evolution in that time. Like I said, we'd walk in, on the day, Dave run that business. It was, could you just install an Exchange server for me, or would you upgrade me from my Novell server to Windows NT. And so, I got my experience doing that kind of stuff. And, I always felt really fortunate because I was one of those guys that if you owned a roofing company, I knew how to put the shingles on, after a
Right.
while, all the rest of my guys were like, get off the roof, dude. You're screwing this up, So they were smart enough to get me off the roof, so to speak. But yeah, we grew that business. So fortunate to just encounter some great people to come and join and work with me to grow that company, and experience so many things along the way. And watch that transformation happen, from really what was professional IT consulting services and fee for service kind of stuff, and evolving into more pure play managed services. That was just really, that term had just been coined, I guess, as I was looking at exiting the business. But yeah, and then working through and living through the business exit as well was a life changing event, but also a real educational event as well.
So when we're talking about workforce orchestration, as you say earlier, and what Teamworker does, you've lived it, you've breathed it. 120 plus employees across 3 locations, coast to coast presence. There's a lot of nuance and complexity that goes into orchestrating workforces of that nature. So I'm really excited to jump in today's topic. Before we do, we got a few folks in the chat. Daniel, appreciate you being here, spending some time with us today. And Jeff, always a pleasure to have you, man. And anybody else, if you're watching with us right now, don't be shy. You have the subject matter expert on the call right now, and my goofy face as well. So if there's anything you want to ask or query us on, challenge us on, if you disagree, we absolutely welcome and encourage that. And we want this to be helpful and valuable to you, our viewers. So if you're an IT service provider, you work in an MSP, you run an MSP, this is really for you. Though I think if you're somebody else, you probably appreciate it beyond that, because I think a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about is universal. So let's lay down the status quo for the conversation, Phil. I've seen this time and time again. We in our space, you have what I affectionately refer to as the accidental entrepreneur. And this is the individual who maybe comes from corporate IT, or perhaps they were just really technically competent and they stumble into their first client somehow, some way. Maybe they worked for an IT company beforehand and they decided to venture forth and do their first thing. And their first couple of clients probably came through previous relationships, mutual connections, et cetera, et cetera. Fast forward a couple of years, and then you've got, 500K in annual recurring revenue and your first part-time employee or whatever it might be. And then the referrals start to grow and the business starts to evolve, and it's a beautiful thing. And then around that, 8 to 10 year mark, perhaps, now you've got maybe a little bit of a workforce. Along the way, this individual will either find a partner to join them in the business, or he's going to find a resource that he or she ends up pouring a lot of resource into and giving a lot of responsibility to. And such that should that person ever, God forbid, get hit by a bus or burn out and quit or take a more lucrative opportunity, that founder is up a creek. Have you seen that trajectory before? Would before, like, obviously you guys exited your MSP, you exited, so you must have put some systems in place to avoid that. Did you struggle with anything like that in your own MSP experience?
Oh gosh, yeah. I love your term accidental entrepreneur. And I don't think that's a disparaging comment at all. And that's great. I think people often fall into stuff, right? And I would say, luck is preparation being opportunity, but I still need that opportunity to show up for me sometimes, right? So an accidental entrepreneur that's great. I think that I was partially that. I always did think about starting a company. I was an entrepreneur at heart, but I did fall into some of that as well. But I think there's a lot of breakpoints or trip lines, I'll call them, in businesses as companies grow and MSPs grow. It's often said that when you triple in size, and that could be revenue, it could be people, it depends on how you measure that. you're going to have to kind of take all your old systems, throw away, and put new ones in. And you can think of that in your own business, maybe. If, as folks listening to this, maybe you started off as one person, you got another person. That was easy because you just call them or email them or just say, "Hey, look at this, look at my screen." As soon as you had the third person, that went away. Like, wait a minute, where is so and so? Let's get them on the line. They're not there. They're at the customer. I don't know. And 2 days later, you still haven't sorted out how to coordinate, right? Well, that happens at 3 people. It probably happens around 9 or 10 people. It probably happens around 30 people. Happens again around 100 people. And so, those markers are out there. You can be aware of that. I think you mentioned another key aspect, especially in MSPs, which is I call it the hero technologist. Along the way, we encounter people that are just unbelievably gifted across the spectrum of technologies and even communication, and your customers love them. And because maybe you're an accidental entrepreneur, you get involved because you have an affinity for that type of work as well. You're side by side with them. You got hands on, etc. And those folks will just be awesome in organizations that are growing. They can take on a lot of different responsibilities. They're happy to learn. They're happy to coach other people, et cetera, up until a point. And you often don't know that you're approaching that point because those people, and I've said this before, we've had this discussion, they don't complain, they just quit. And it's just part of their nature. It's part of their DNA, right? They're not built for complaining. They're built for doing. And then when they hit that break point, they just stop doing.
That's right.
And that's a big exposure in business. And I will tell you, it doesn't, unless you can put in some systems to recognize that and really react to that and then be proactive about it, I think you're going to be very limited in what you can do. I hear it a lot when people say, well, I have one-on-ones with my people. Okay, that's great when you're 3 people. It's great when you're 10 people. What happens when you're 15 people and you're still that one person? How are you going to have one-on-ones with people? Twice a month, you're going to have a one-on-one. Once a month, you're going to have one-on-ones. I just did that quick math. You're going to have meetings every day or every other day. Is that even feasible in your business, in your time, in the time you have? I don't know. I don't see how that would work, right? So you can just do real simple math, start to figure out at some point you can't have one-on-ones. Well, I take my team out. We have team building exercises. Okay. Do you think that the hero technologist personality is one that's going to stand there and complain in front of the rest of the team? I think you're mistaken if you think that they're not built for that. And most people aren't, right? So, the important point here is I think that most accidental entrepreneurs, again, said with affection, come into situations that they don't, how would I know what I'm going to get into here? It's almost like when you start your company, it says you need insurance. Oh, cool. What kind of insurance do I need? You need a bank. What kind of bank should I get? You don't know the answer to those questions. Why should you know, right? Rely upon some industry, help like we're giving here and try to figure out how you can more proactively understand the needs of your people, and not just through ad hoc one-on-ones, not through, hey, heavens, I like to drink beer and shoot pool too. Like, hey, I don't know, that's awesome, right? I love to do that, especially with my team. That's great times, but you're not going to get into the details you need to get into in those conversations. So I myself, like I said, I've been stung by this. And that's the best way to learn about getting honey, right? Is put your hand in there and get stung, and then, what do I got to do to make sure that doesn't work, right? So how do I go out and get that good stuff? I think it's about being proactive. I think it's about understanding that you as an individual can't possibly extend all of yourself into all those people, right? And try to figure out what their needs are. I think all of this is going to come to a head. Even more importantly, it's coming to a head right now. Because in managed services companies, people try to do more with less, right? And we have that action all the time. The coming of AI. Well, I'll build some agents for that. Okay. And how's that going to work, right? And I was struck by something earlier this year. I was doing some research. I think it was Service Leadership Report from this past year says still 30% of revenue, even in a true managed services business, over 30% of the revenue comes from people-based operations. So if I came to I suck 30% of the revenue out of it right now, what would be left? What would be left in your MSP? I'll tell you, it's gonna be some low margin stuff.
Right.
And you're gonna scramble if I suck that right out of your business today. And by the way, this is a mature industry too, right? It's not we're talking about, we just discovered this thing and it's going to evolve. No, I think it's a very mature industry right now with literally, there are some estimates that there may be upwards of 100,000 managed services companies in the United States. depending how you count it.
That's right.
Terribly competitive, terribly mature. You got to be on your toes all the time, and you got to earn that earn new business, right? That kind of stuff. So, this problem, if you will, and I don't think it's a problem, you can turn it to your advantage, but this situation is not going to change, right? You bring a new stack, a new tech, a new something to it. It just is. So that's a long way to answer your question, Scopy. Hopefully it helps.
No, there's so much insight. I was taking some notes and writing some stuff down that I really loved. A few things that you said, I just wanted to pull out into the middle of the room. Proactively understanding the needs of your people. And then when you kind of shared some of the background that led to some of these realizations you had, you spoke of like systematizing some of this. You spoke about the constraints that the founder has when he approaches scale, and how do you be all things to all people. One-on-ones are great when you have a team of 5 and you could do that every month, or you could do that quarterly. But you run into some serious challenges as you scale. As I'm hearing you talk, though, I'm wondering if you think there might be some existential forces at play that are affecting this, because my spidey senses are telling me that if I am that business owner and I'm approaching business problems, and my solution in my brain to business problems is to throw resumes at that problem, how I view my workforce, how I view my team is going to be very pragmatic. And it's also going to be from the perspective of how much can I get out of this tool, right? How much can I squeeze out of it? Versus, is it better to facilitate a culture of collaborative growth, like facilitate a vision and a mission that you can lead the charge towards and draw people alongside of you? Because when I think about proactively understanding the needs of your people, only a leader is going to give a crap. Only a good leader is going to have that even cross their brain. What do my people need from me? What do they need from the organization? What do they need? Talk to me a little bit about the existential component here. Do you think there's opportunity for business leaders in the MSP space to get a better handle on who they are first, so that they can be the people that their team wants to follow?
Well, yeah, you really opened up a big can there, right? Part of what you mentioned, I think, comes back to the service leader mentality, right? That, am I here to get something out of these people, or am I here to put something into them, or is it a little bit of both, right? I think that you have to think carefully about that as a leader. And I think you said existential. I think it's also internal. We all have strengths and weaknesses. And if you came to me and said, Phil, I want you to stand here today and I want you to monitor this assembly line here, right? And every time something happens, I want you to put the bolt into I would bail on that thing in about 13 seconds, or you'd probably pull me out of there, because I'm like, well, wait a minute, if we just move this guy over here, it's going to go faster. And then you're like, no, we spent 12 years fixing this problem, Phil. You don't know anything about it. Move, get out, right? So you have to ask yourself what you're good at, right?
Yeah.
Back to the accidental entrepreneur. Am I good at this? If not, do I need to be good at it? Right? That is to say, get better at it.
Right.
Should I get somebody in here who's good at it? Right? What risk or benefit does that bring to my business? Right? I will tell you this: I had a tremendous fortune to identify and bring in people into my company who were just way better people skilled than I will probably ever be, and they taught me a lot of lessons. But I had to be open to those lessons. I definitely came, we're talking about 30 years ago, you came in a mentality that was, there was X number of billable hours and you had to be Y% utilized, and we organized bonus structures around that, sort of all that stuff. The existential threat today is that mindset would get you just bankrupt, right? Let's even go one step further and look at the existential threat, or the existential forces that are going to act upon the MSP business going forward. One of which is the younger workforce coming into this marketplace. We're talking about Gen Zs, right? Millennials are already into your market, but when you're talking about folks that grew up digital,
yeah,
they don't even call a pizza shop to get a pizza anymore. I went to Dunkin' Donuts to get something just the other day. Someone DoorDash Dunkin's. Now I had to step back from that. Like you're paying more just to have your coffee brought to you and your donut brought to you. Like that never would have entered my mind. But I'm the old guy. Like I said before, I'm the dinosaur that's wandering around here. What you have in the younger workforce coming to this marketplace are just different. It's different conditioning, it's different values, different mindsets, right? And so now you're looking across, say, what are the threats? We always do the SWOT analysis. People look that one up. You don't already know it. But strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. Well, you can see that there's a threat to your business around your workforce. How do I turn those threats into opportunities? How do I turn my weaknesses into my strengths? Right?
That's right.
So we look at that and we say, all right, you can only do so many of them at one time as well, right? But I really believe let's tie them together. I like how you put that. Let's pull some of the stuff off the walls here and drag it in the middle of the room here. We've got 30% of my revenue and likely wide margin coming off my people.
Right.
I've got younger workforce that I could tap into coming into this marketplace. How do I do that? How would I address them? Right. And bring them into my company. How am I making my company a place people want to come and work and stay?
Yeah.
Side note, what's a big revenue and profit killer? Turn your team over.
That's right.
Turn that hero tech over. Go ahead and lose, even not the hero, lose a good solid B+, A- player off your team. You watch your customers suffer. You watch your other teammates suffer, right? For that.
That's right.
Look, programmatic turnover is going to happen. I always say in business, we just don't want any surprises. It's like your vacation, right? Don't surprise me unless I want to be surprised, right? Right? Oh, flight change. Uh-oh, misconnection. Uh-oh, surprise, right? In business, let's not be surprised. If I see this person, and I've really worked with them, and it's just not working out, well, then I can exit that person the right way. They're going to be happier. I'm going to be happy, right? But if it's not that way, then no one's going to be happy. I'm going to turn my customers over, turn my people over. I'm going to have to hire. I saw a stat the other day. It's $200,000 plus to go find the new person. That's okay. That would not be a huge salary. That put their salary in there in the first year, right? But now I got to recruit, train, etc. around that person on board. That's why the number grows so dramatically. Bigger base salary, the bigger that number is going to be.
That's right.
So you go ahead and turn over one of your high-level security folks off your team. Talk about competitive marketplace, right? Right. So don't do that. Don't be that guy. Service leadership coming in. Look, how am I being that leader that actually services my team in a way that they can really appreciate and understand at scale is kind of what we're talking about here.
When I think about how to avoid surprises when it comes to your workforce, there's two things that come to mind. Number one, you said it yourself, facilitating a culture of this is the place where people want to be, and not just where they want to be, but where they want to stay. But then the other side of that, and I think part of how you deliver that kind of experience and culture to your people is to systematize everything from cradle to grave, from like the first interview that you have with a prospective candidate and who you target for candidates, all the way through to career path trajectory planning and every step along the way of their experience being part of your team you can't ever be perfect. And it's going to be something that's always evolving and changing, but you need to account for those things. And then it's interesting that we're having this conversation the way that we are, because who are supposed to be the experts on business continuity, if not the IT service provider? But do we account for this one critical component of business continuity, workforce orchestration, as you have coined, which I love? Should that not be part of your business continuity planning? Yeah, you know how to fail over into a new environment. Yeah, you know how to restore backups. Yeah, you know how to do that for your customers. But what if, boom, how would you handle that?
Well, you make a great point on that. I mean, think about the fact that you got X number of customers. Maybe you are in a DR or standpoint, or disaster recovery, some type of continuity planning, things like that. And you look over at your own team and you go, wow, the pod of people that services that account right there, the lead on that account has 1 foot out the door for my company.
Yeah.
So now next week when the bell rings, Is that person going to be there? Are they going to be enthusiastic about being there? What holds in there? What holds most, again, I use this term affectionately, the hero technologist. This is the person with the cape, right? This is the person that can really do the things. What holds them in there are terms that we would think about that aren't always associated with business, but respect, honor, right? Delivering well, right? Being seen and heard, right? Those types of things. That's what that person wants out of you as the leader.
That's
right.
What
happens when you, hey, look, maybe that was your second hire in your business. So yeah, you had a lot of beers with that guy over the years, right? And then as you grew, they are instrumental to that growth, and they took on more responsibility. Then things got a little, different, right?
Yeah.
And you lost track of each other in your own organization, but they're still wearing that cape for you. How do you know? How do you understand the skills, the goals, and more importantly, the aspirations of your team?
Yeah.
Right. You can go ahead and put the spreadsheet together for the skills. Here they are. We can ask about goals and those reviews, and are we getting there? Very hard to manage and maintain on an ongoing basis. But what about aspirations? Where do you want to be in career? Where do you want to be in your life? You have to ask those real questions of people and extract, if you will, that information. Sometimes that's what it's like. I can extract this from you, right? But giving them a chance to express that in a way that they know they're going to be heard and you can action against. I'll give an example. This is what we're building on the Teamworker platform, by the way. I'm excited to get forward on that. But related to it, imagine you can take sales information, right? We're pursuing this deal. Maybe we're responding to an RFP. Here's the RFP. Is there any way that I could have any chance of knowing not just the skill? There's the hero tech. I know I can assign Scopy this. Why? Because Scopy's done this 27 times. He's going to nail this thing, right? But Scopy doesn't want to do it anymore. He's done it 27 times. Does that technical person on your team want to do something more than 5 times?
Yeah.
Maybe if it's having a slow day, right? But not the 10th time, right? So no, Scopy doesn't want to do this anymore. Okay, wait a minute. What if I have somebody else on my team who's almost there from a skills level, but they have an aspirational goal, right? They have an aspiration over here that says, I want to learn that. I want to do that. Put them with Scopy, put them on this thing. We can nail this thing. It's going to be awesome. And I just enhance my team, right?
I love it.
Scopy loves to train, educate, mentor. Let's go. Get Phil to work with him. See.
So we're gonna be starting to wrap up here really soon, and you jumped ahead into Teamworker, which is great because that's what we want to talk about next. I want to just take a moment and pull some of our comments up here. Do employees really like those team building events? Wouldn't they rather just have money, build the team day to day? Yeah, I think that's part of knowing who your people are, right? Some people absolutely appreciate the social component of bringing people together. Other people would much rather get a paycheck. But if you don't know your people and you haven't built a culture that has an identity, you're never going to know. You're just guessing when it comes to trying to facilitate those things. Yeah, let's have a pizza party. Well, maybe they would rather leave early on a Friday. Knowing your people is a big part of that. Yeah. We also got Troy here. How important are employee exit interviews? What types of questions are you asking during that session? And are there takeaways from that meeting you'd want or feel necessary to discuss with your employees? My goodness, Troy, I feel like we need a whole other episode for this question. This is a fantastic question.
Yeah, Scopy, I'll take that one. Comedians always say, please don't let anybody yell too late. And somebody goes, too late, right? And they say, punish those who do, right? That's it. There's your exit. Sure, you want to do those things. But if you're in the exit interview and you're surprised, boy, you got some work to do, man, right? And it's happened to me. It has happened to me. I'm not going to lie. So, it's the world. If this was even 15 years ago, I'd say, well, you probably got a fighting chance. Do your exit interviews, coordinate those, and see what you can fix and reorient the compass a little bit, right? Nowadays, it's real fast moving out there. So appreciate the question. That's a great question.
No, it's a great question, Troy. And as I'm like, I wasn't expecting the response that you gave, Phil. But now that I'm thinking about it, I see what your point is. Like, if you've really got the processes in place and the systems in place, and you've really built a culture that attracts good people, and you facilitate and nurture that talent, it should be the least surprising thing when that 2 weeks notice is given. Yep. You've like, we knew this was coming, or and we were prepared for it, or perhaps you're the one sitting down with the employee and having that tough conversation. Mm-hmm. But I do think, to Troy's I don't know, he's not necessarily making a point, but if I read between the lines here with what Troy's asking, I do think there's a lot to be learned from those surprises that we inevitably will have.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh
Taking the
yeah.
opportunity to sit down with your people in an exit interview, if they're willing to actually go that, do a post-mortem, like, what could we have done differently? What are the reasons? For me, the questions are always gonna come back to things that they value, right? For me, if Phil, I've said this 1,000 times this year to other people, if I were to ever take a W-2, and so help me, I'm avoiding it as it's probably never happen again if I can help it. But if I ever were to take a W-2 again, there's 3 things I would want from that job existentially. Number 1, I want to get paid. I want to get paid well. Number 2, I would want to enjoy the work that I do. Number 3, I would want to know that the work that I did was valuable, like it meant something. Those are the 3 most important things to me in any type of career choice that I would make. And to that end, I try to facilitate those things for the people that work for me, assuming that those are also important to them. But if you don't ever talk to your people, how will you ever know what they value? Because I ask that question in interviews. What are the 3 most important things to you? I'll ask that question in every interview that I have, and a lot of the answers I get aren't the same thing. That are my most important 3. Um,
For sure
so I
not. For sure not. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, and we're gonna wrap up, but I'd say, my most important 3 are definitely not going to be your most important 3. Even if they are, and we ranked them, one's going to be above the other, right? It's going to be something different, because you know what? Some people want the money, and then some people, like you said, do you want the money? Do you want the time off? Do you want the pizza party? I think you have a large enough organization, you're going to get different answers to that question all the time. Everybody always wants the money to a point, right? Like you said. But if my work isn't valued, or I don't feel like I'm being heard here, right? I could go in there and throw money at you all day long. It's only going to stave off that 2-week notice for a little while, because you'll sort of come back and say, I'm out of here. I found something more rewarding for whatever that system you have is. Yeah.
Phil, this has been an absolute joy having you, and I'm really grateful to our viewers who've spent time with us today, or if they're watching the recording back later. We're super grateful for you guys. I would like you to just take a minute or 2 to just tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with Teamworker, and then we're going to wrap up and conclude the stream. Okay?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, you've heard this a little bit throughout our discussion, but I really believe that successful MSPs understand not just what the people can do today, but where they want to go. So tying together that whole point about, hey, we've got X percent of our work is coming from these people-focused efforts. How are you going to do that as you scale your business, right? So we really are an AI-based platform. I like to say that, but it's people in there as well who help you find out the skills and the goals and the aspirations of the people on your team and align them with the business outcomes you need to get to. That goes to that whole, are you surprised in the exit interview and why? Those types of things there. So making sure that we do this in an industry tailored way. I want to be very clear about that as well. So having been a long-term MSP industry veteran, I've been able to work with a great team of technical people to develop this solution that is tailored into MSPs, where we go ahead and look at the actual types of people, help desk oriented people, field service people, managers in these businesses. We know about those. So we're able to take this and give you, over time, we want to give you that single pane of glass. We always strive for that. Not another piece of tech stack stuff for you guys, but rather something that gives you some insight and usability. Like I said earlier, drop in some sales information, match your team against it. Things like that are real quick, and help people to run their companies.
I'm really excited to see your product develop and grow. For those of you who haven't checked out Teamworker, you absolutely should. Grab some time with Phil. His platform is early stage. I know starting early. Am I allowed to say this, Phil? Like,
go ahead. Have at it. Yeah, sure.
I know early 2026, he's going to be looking for a few folks to pilot some of the features that they're rolling out. So Phil is a good friend of Scofy and the business and our organization, and we've loved seeing what he's bringing. And this is a great opportunity for folks like you who are in the trenches every day dealing with workforce orchestration to get some time with Phil early on and have a voice in what they're doing well, and get some good value out of it as well. So Phil, I'm so grateful for you being with us today. I'm going to wrap up the stream with an outro video. If you're watching, there's a QR code where you can go follow us on other platforms or wherever you prefer to consume our content. And we'll catch you all at the next one. Thanks for being on Scofy Sessions, everybody.
Thank you.